Hey guys, wanted to show you a quick video being that we're coming up on wipe. Here's the best barter items you can trade from tier 1 and 2. So the first item you're going to want to grab is raid. You can get this in various places. A lot of times Shoreline has some up in the administration building. That's where I tend to find the majority of mine. You can also get some on interchange and duct tape. Both of these are really good healing items for early wipe. Top of that, the other really good thing from therapists are going to be the bandages or thick bandages for heavy bleeds, and you can get those for packs of screws. Keep in mind that some of these items you will need for quests and for your hideout. I'll go ahead and put a picture of both of those, a link of the picture of both of those, so you know what to kind of hold. The Lewis splints are another thing. You won't need it immediately because you're going to start out with a lot of splints, but if you go ahead and get 2 of the syringes, you can go ahead and trade them off or barter them off for the splint, which gives you 5 uses. The Lua does gives you 5 uses, so it's a pretty good trade. Next up, the IFAC. You just need 1 sodium, so it's a pretty good trade as well, early wipe. And a lot of times once you get auction house, you can buy the sodium cheaper than the IFAC. However, the AFACs are in play now, so that may change. IFACs may actually be better off just buying. It will depend a little bit on auction prices. Next off, we have Prapper. Prapper has a lot of good items as well. The ones that you're really going to look for is the AK, which you can get for the horse and the cleaner. You can get the cleaners again on interchange, and the horses are pretty much every map. Outside that, the next really good one is the PP19. You will need 4 T-plugs. Next up, we have 6B23. Now this only takes 1 propane tank, which are super easy to get early wipe in the back of Ollie on interchange. They're all over the place and no one picks them up. So go ahead and grab those, trade them in for armor, and you'll be set. Especially if you go in with the MBSS, grab 4 of those bad boys, extract, and you have 4 armors and roughly 5 minutes. It's a really quick run, get armor, and you're ready to go for 4 runs after that. I don't recommend this personally, however, I know there are people that prefer to do bigger rigs. If you're looking for a good rig and you don't want to go in with a smaller rig, 6SH is a really easy trade. You go into woods, grab some milk and oat flakes, which are literally at every encampment, and you can trade 1 of each and you can get a slightly bigger rig. However, I just go in with lighter rigs, kill a scav, grab their rig. It's much easier and efficient. Once you get your hideout up and running where you actually need to start getting fuel, you're going to want to go ahead and buy the metal fuel canisters. Now this will counter a little bit on your armor runs, but propane, like I said, is everywhere in Ollie. So I would go ahead and not worry about holding those so much, but go ahead and hold your FCON so you can trade them off to the metal fuel tanks and try to do early trades, because they most likely will go out of stock again this wipe as they did last. If you're looking for the 60 rounders for AK mags, whether that's a mechanic quest or you just like to run 60 rounders, this is going to be your best bet, is going to Prapper and going and bartering for his 60 round mags. It doesn't cost a whole lot, it's quick and easy, it's 1 thermometer which you're going to get out of duffel bags anyway. However, keep in mind that those thermometers are also vendor pretty decent on therapists, so weigh your pros and cons on getting those. But if you don't really necessarily need ruples and you're looking to get a bigger mag, Prapper is your way to go. If you're looking for early game sniping, the Valde is one of the best scopes for early game sniping. However, you will need an MRE for it, along with the 2 vodka, but the MRE you will need on another quest. It doesn't have to be found in raid, so you can go ahead and barter them and then wait until you're level 10 and then go ahead and buy the MREs off the auction house when you get to the quest. But found in raid MREs generally are worth a bit more early wipe, so keep that in mind before you do that barter. AK-74 is probably the best early wipe barter for getting a rifle that's fully automatic. Next up is my personal favorite. It's the MP153, which takes a Yotota, a car key, and a 6-pack key, which are all extremely cheap early wipe, and you can also get tons of them through jackets and pockets of scavs. So go ahead and check all those jackets when you're running by them. If you kill a scav, check their backpack and their pockets, and you'll make these left and right. Now we're going over to Skier 2. Don't get baited on this. The SIG does look decent. It is not worth grabbing. It needs to be fully modded for it to be a half decent gun. So grabbing that early wipe is just going to screw you over because you're going to have terrible recoil control. And there really isn't anything here on Skier 2, so I would just move on to your next trader, which is going to be Peacekeeper. Now Peacekeeper has a lot of different variation of items. You will need to spend USD here. The first item I'm going to say is the beta. Don't buy this. I know it seems tempting, but you're going to get other cases during your questing, so I really don't think this is worth grabbing. However, I understand that people that are using alphas are going to want to upgrade. I would just refrain from it for a little bit because you're going to get cases as you progress through the quests. So the first real trade or barter on Peacekeeper is going to be the backpacks. The backpacks are well worth grabbing here, whether you want to do the Daybreak or the MBSS. I personally like MBSS a little bit better than the Daybreak. However, if you have DVD drives laying around, go ahead and grab the Daybreak instead. Now if you happen to have a bunch of knives laying around, maybe your scav runs and you're grabbing the knives because you have to grab everything off your scav for it to be most efficient, the MP5 is worth trading those knives into. However, keep in mind, I wouldn't necessarily grab knives off of scavs unless you have empty inventory, because they're going to take up 2 slots, and a lot of times they're selling for under 8k early wipe, so that's like 4k a slot, not really worth. If you're on the M4 quest and you need an M4, this is going to be your next best barter. I don't recommend it unless you actually need to save money. Now the MPX is a very situational barter. I don't personally think this is a good trade because you're going to use up 7 dog tags that you need for later quest and also for your scav box unless you plan on paying, I think it's like 1 million rubles roughly from Therapist. I would probably say hold out on using those dog tags unless you have a substantial amount. So the real one here outside of the backpacks is going to be your M62 nades. You can trade them for Zibbos, which are generally really cheap early wipe. On top of that, you can just trade over or barter over the ones that you have that are not found in raid if you want to save the money. Only thing on Peacekeeper level 2 is the MP9 mag. Everything else is just purely bait. Even then you need some gas analyzers for your quest, so you're probably not even going to be looking at running an MP9, but if you are, that's your best bet. Moving over to mechanic level 1, there are some decent barters here. The one that you really should be looking for is getting the black plastic for the shotgun, and that's only because you're going to need that for a quest. And ironically enough, it's for mechanic part 1. So that's normally what people get stuck on. Also keep in mind when you're killing scavs, if they have a shotgun with the black plastic part on it, go ahead and grab that. It's going to be selling for, I want to say it was like 80k rubles to 150k rubles, like day 1, day 2. So you can make a quick profit by just killing a scav with the black shotgun and you've made bank. Moving over to mechanic 2, realistically the only decent barter here is going to be your Glock, and that's because it takes WD-40, which isn't really used for much of anything. It needs 2, and it's a pistol that's fully kitted, ready to go. All you need is just to grab some ammo and you'll be well on your way. Maybe the Glock mags if you got, let's say, a Vector early on for 2 Poxrama, which is pretty cheap. You can also start bartering for this early just to get your mags ready to go when you are more like 3 weeks in and you're running Vectors. There also is the MP5 mag, which takes one of the FCON, and you will need one of the MP5 mags for a mechanic quest. So keep that in mind, and this is at tier 2, so you probably won't have this right off the bat. Along with that, that's pretty much it. You can get the DRI scope for the SSD drive, but I don't think that's really great. And outside that, I can't really think of anything that's worth grabbing here. It's just mediocre at best, outside of some parts that you might be wanting to kit out your gun with. Moving over to Ragman tier 2, there's nothing really worth grabbing on tier 1. You have an AVS, which is extremely powerful early wipe. It does take 2 gold chains and 2 golden TT pistols. You will need to kill Rashala, or you can do what I did early wipe, and I was able to get the golden TTs for anywhere between 10 to 15, sometimes 20k, along with the gold chains giving you a vest for around 50k. That is by far better than almost everyone has on the map. You have 2 options of backpacks here, the Tri-Zip and the Alpha. Tri-Zip I think is the better option. You're not going to be able to fill up an alpha early wipe without having a strength/endurance issue. The Tri-Zip you're probably still going to have a little bit of an issue, but it won't be nearly as severe as the alpha. Although it seems like a good barter, I'd say just save your sugars and wait until you can start making moonshine with it. Moving over to Jaeger, you will need to complete his first quest to unlock him. There is a couple items you can get here. The shotgun being the one. Scav vest is also not a bad grab. You have your first CMS that's pretty cheap to get. And then on top of that, you have a backpack, not really worth grabbing unless you're planning on using it in the hideout. You also can barter for his metal fuel, which is pretty expensive, but you can start buying fuel from him, so that's a huge plus. And I was just double checking, it is level 2 where you can start buying it, so keep that in mind, and those will generally sell out really quick. You can also start refreshing your factory key. You probably won't need to. You're searching jackets and pockets, so you're going to get plenty of those. There's really nothing else on tier 2 outside the holodeck, and the vest isn't too bad because it's one match, but there's really not a whole lot here that's worth grabbing. Thanks for staying to the end. Hopefully you guys enjoyed and were able to get a little bit of information to help you along the early wipe, which I think will hit some point this week. We'll find out if I'm right, but I do think it's going to hit for sure before the 4th of July. Hopefully you enjoyed. Have a good wipe and the rest of this wipe.